Hello and good afternoon to you all, or good morning, depending where you're based. Welcome to the Olga Show, the show where you can grow and learn with awesome guests, just like my today's guest, the amazing and only one, Diana Grant, who is a author, who is a coach, who is a speaker, but also she is a self-love transformational agent in the world who is here to transform the world through self-love. And Diana, today we have such a beautiful topic to talk about.
Yeah.
How to break the bias starting with parenting and self-love. I'm super excited. Thank you so much for coming to my show today.
Hi, Olga. Thank you so much. Oh, I love that introduction. You always introduce me so well, and it's so much fun to be back. As usual, I can't believe another month has flown by, and I'm really excited that we're in International Women's Month, and we've got International Women's Day coming up, and that we can speak about this very, very important topic, which can be difficult to harness, but with relation to parenting and self-love. Yeah, so I'm very happy to be here. Let's do this.
Wow. And let's make sure we're not here for 3 hours. I think that'll be a good thing.
Exactly.
Because sometimes we can, right? Sometimes we can. So let's not be here for 3 hours, but let's give as much value as we can.
Yeah.
And because it is the International Women's Day on the 8th of March, I'd like probably to start with that. Okay. So we all know as women we face quite a few challenges on during our life pretty much, right? And we know through centuries that there were some troubles and difficulties and just and judgment and whatever prejudices we had. But now we're in in a new century. Now we are in a new world. Now we are in this modern society, and yet there are still some bias. So Diana, what's your point on that? What's your view on that?
Okay, wow. And you asked me not to be here for 3 hours, Olga? Absolutely. So here we are in a new century, in a new world, and yet the bias is still there. And no surprises because it began such a long time ago. And so it's been ingrained in our society for so long that literally, I think these days, um, well, it's starting to shift, but I think certainly
Mm,
up to sort of my generation, we were almost born with it. And lately, I've been having very interesting conversations where I think often the bias sits at a very heavy percentage of bias actually sits in the psyche of the woman ourselves. So we're actually carrying it and we're carrying it forward. And that can be quite a shock because to think that I definitely want equal opportunity for everyone. I want everybody to have the same voice, to be heard, to matter as much as one another, regardless of any kind of bias. I mean, we're talking about gender bias, but any kind of bias. And yet, deep in my psyche, I'm actually carrying biases that I cannot even know are there because it's been in our society for so long. So I think that's a very important step. And you and I always talk about this.
yeah.
It's about that self-awareness, coming to a place of where is my bias sitting? Like I might think that
Mm.
I expect something, but am I actually living up to that? Am I creating that space for myself in the world? So yeah,
Mm.
that's where I stand on it. I really believe every single human being on planet Earth deserves equal opportunity, deserves um, equal sounding board to be heard, to be seen, to be acknowledged. And so yeah, let's do everything we can to make that happen.
Which I totally agree with you. And I think it's really, really powerful when we all step up to give people equal opportunities. But Diana, and it might sound very controversial, but why not to bring controversy in this conversation? But what I notice the dynamics, unfortunately, with equality is that we all talk about providing with equality. However, at the same time, not always people are using that equality. And
Yeah.
the reason why I'm mentioning that because I've been interviewed literally last week. I think it was last week. Yes, last week, and it was about speaking business and why there are only few women who made their name in the speaking business. Aren't there opportunities? And the truth is, opportunities are out there. But how often do we put ourselves forward?
Mm.
right? How often do we actually do things to use those equal opportunities? We can talk about that, but I think here, in spite, we need to raise awareness of that. I think we also need to raise awareness in women in general, that girls, how about instead of fighting for them, how about start using them?
Yeah.
Like, just start using them because they are
Mhm.
there. There's no point to keep talking. We need more opportunities for us. We need to start using them. Don't you
Mm.
think?
I love that, Olga. And yes, it is controversial, and
Yeah.
I can just imagine a whole lot of people like going, how can you say that?
What? Yeah.
And yes, that is key to my message. It all comes back to self and what is available to me, and
Mm.
how can I harness it, and how can I make it work for me, and also what do I really want. So this has been key to messaging that I've been doing lately as well, is what do you really want. So
Mm.
it's one thing to be shouting I want the equal opportunity, but as you say, do I really want everything that comes with it? Because with all opportunity, and with all rights, also
Mhm.
comes responsibility and accountability, and so there's that balance. So what do I really want? And then once I decide it, so for example, you use the speaking industry, I love that. So if I do get to that place that I really want this, I want to make a name for myself as a speaker, then it is about, you're not going to catch a fish if you're walking around in the desert. You need to get into the ocean, so, or the river, or the lake. So yes, so then it's about going and finding that opportunity and taking that opportunity. And I think that's a lot to do with what's sitting in our psyche. So
Mm.
there can be self-worth stuff going on. There can be like, okay, so then I do see the opportunity, and I might sort of acknowledge it. Okay, that could be an opportunity for me. But just the could is coming from a place of bias. It's coming from how the bias has impacted the way I view myself. Because somewhere deep in my psyche, there might be this thing of, I don't deserve that though.
Mhm.
Or I'm not as good as John because
Yeah.
he's so strong and he's so this and that can come from bias. And so again, as I always say, it comes back to self. It comes back to really getting to know ourselves and love ourselves. And now this is where I'm going to bring in the rest of our topic today is this is where as women we have a huge responsibility to the next generation.
Mhm.
And whether we have our own children or whether we're involved with other people's children, all of us connect with children at some point. And I love to say that it takes a village to raise a child. So when I talk about parenting, I'm not always only talking about your own children, it's any young mind that we come into contact with. It is our responsibility to teach them to know themselves,
Mm.
to empower themselves, to love themselves, to see opportunities and go for them, to know what they really want. Like, is that opportunity for me? And if I say no to it, then to feel empowered and like I own that no. So yeah, I think parenting is so important in this, and teaching self love is so important.
It's so true, Diana. And right now, I just want to scream. I honestly want to scream. And the reason why I want to scream, because the biggest, probably the biggest reason why so many women are still feeling they don't have opportunities or don't use the opportunities and don't step up for themselves is the what I call it is a good girl syndrome,
Mm,
right? When we parents we raise a good girl, right? As a boy, you expect them to be naughty. You know they're gonna go and crash things. You know they're not. It's okay they're not polite, but as a girl, you got to have manners and you
mm,
got to be a good girl. And what would
mm,
other people say if they would see you behaving like that? Did you think about that, right? I just hear the voices in my head right now because I heard them all, right? And what happens when we parents are educating our children that way, it goes also, of course, be towards boys. I'm not saying just towards girls, but towards girls is more often, and I still hear it. If you are on a street and you see a parent asking for a child something, and mostly to the girls, and and then they do it, and they say, "Oh, good girl, good girl."
mhm. Yeah.
We educate our children to be people pleasers, but
Yes.
what people pleasers do, they never succeed.
Yeah.
because they don't want to hurt others.
Mhm.
They don't
Yeah.
want to make other people feel left behind, right? So I hear you, and I want to scream here. I absolutely want to scream here. It's a
Yeah,
big
it's
topic.
a biggie. It's a biggie, Olga, and that's exactly where the bias is born.
Hmm.
It's born from that language straight away, and then not only is it born within the girls who are growing up to be good girls, people pleasers. I can't advance myself. I can't advance myself over the next person because that would not be polite. That would not be kind. That would not be a good girl. But that's also being fair. So the boys are hearing the same message, and the message that they receive is, well, I get to be bad. You know, I can be bad
Yeah,
boy because everyone's gonna love me and forgive me afterwards anyway. That's the
yeah,
one thing. Secondly is I get to go for everything because my
yeah.
sister or my cousin or whoever the girl in my life is, she's being the good girl. She's holding the fort. She's, keeping everything okay. So both boy children and girl children are growing up with this same sense of bias, and so that's where I say it's so important to break it as parents or as older people in the community dealing with other people's children. It's so important the message that we're putting out, and that all comes back to self love. How much do I know myself? How much have I empowered myself? How much of a voice do I give to myself? How many of the opportunities that I say that I want do I really go for? What am I doing? And what example am I setting for the children in my life
Mhm.
as a parent? Yeah, a biggie.
Wow. Well, in that case, Diana, please help the world. Please save the world. What are the tips? What are the hacks? What are the tools that women can actually use nowadays, starting from now on, literally quarter past 1 p.m. UK time, that will help them to break through those barriers and finally live their own authentic, amazing lives?
Well, let's stick with controversy and let's go for a biggie that everyone's going to go, oh, how can she say that? My first hack, put yourself first. You come first. Number one in your life has to be you. Has to be. And again, all the good girls and all the well raised boys, everybody's going, oh, that's so selfish. How can you say
Yeah.
that? And I'm saying, yes, do it.
Yes.
You need to be first. Your spirit, your mind, your emotion, your body needs to come first. So
Mhm.
today, Wednesday afternoon, make that make that commitment to yourself, make that promise and keep it. I am number one. And it's so interesting. I've been working with self love since as long as I can remember. It didn't always have that name in my world, but I was young when I started playing with this concept. And yet, I'll never forget my cousin, I love my cousin. He said, I live by the number one. My philosophy in life is number one. And I was like, what do you mean number one? I think I was like 20 or 21 and he was a teenager. And he said, I am number one, me first. And I was in such a good girl phase at that time. I was like, wow, that's so bold. And of course, my mind said, it's Nick. He's a boy. He can, of course, he gets to do this. And then I was like, hang on a minute. I get to do this too if I choose it. And I need to choose me. I need to be number one. So that's the first hack. And it's a biggie. I know it's a biggie because it sounds simple. Put yourself first. Whew, that is going against all that programming, all that conditioning of being a good girl, being behind every great man there's a great woman.
Yes.
Behind it's going against all of that stuff to say me first. So if I like it, I like it. If I don't like it, not going to happen. If I want the opportunity, I'm going for it. If I
Mm.
want to laugh now and my kids are driving me nuts and but I need you, I want you, I want the I'm taking a mommy bath
Mm.
and make it happen. And whew, it can be tough. I know it can be tough. Yeah,
It's so very true. And there is a saying, if you want to change the world, change yourself.
absolutely.
That's why by prioritizing yourself, you'll be able to change your relationships. you'll be able to change your work environment, or you will actually change the work environment,
Yeah.
right? Whichever comes first, okay? And you
Exactly.
also will change relationships with the world, right? You will. Because when you prioritize yourself, you say no to things that don't make you happy. And happiness
Yeah.
is the ultimate thing we all want.
Of
Okay.
course.
So I love that. Prioritizing yourself first. So that's the first thing what we can do. Second thing, what is the second thing we can do to make sure women are breaking through their bias, to make sure they are actually thriving in life starting from today? Almost half past one.
Speak your truth.
Oof.
And that's another
Oof.
tough truth. I know. They're supposed to be hacks. I think the word hack implies that it's going to be easy. None of these are going to necessarily be easy. But speak your truth. And again, that goes against being a good girl. That goes against so much conditioning. But in the workplace, in your relationships, as a parent with your children, out in the world, speak your truth. It counts. It holds value. And if you're not speaking up for yourself, because that's all that speaking your truth is, if you're not speaking up for yourself, who else is going to? Nobody. If you're not trusting your truth enough, nobody else will take you seriously either. They might to a certain degree, but not as much as you want them to, especially in the workplace, especially out in the world where the bias, because we can create home excuse me, home environments that really work for us, and there's an understanding because it's our partner and our children and all of that. So the bias can kind of live in the shadows, but when we're out there in the world and showing up in whatever business or workplace we find ourselves in, that's where the stuff gets real. And that's where, if if I'm going out there and I'm not advocating for me, nobody else is going to.
Yeah. I love that. I absolutely love it. Actually, Valeria, she also says, love it. Put yourself first. Self care. That's relating to the first tip from Diana, how to break through the bias and thrive in life. So let's go to the tip number three. Do you have for us a tip number three, Diana, on how women can break through the bias and how they can thrive in life and how they can actually live an authentic life?
Yeah, this one's another biggie. Do an audit on your own life.
Mm,
So it's a this is about digging deep. This is about finding out where is the bias sitting in my own life. So it can be, and this one can be tough because it can affect relationships. So you might want to do an internal audit first with yourself. Just check in. Where is it? There are actually assessments online. I know you and I were chatting before this, where you can do them. Which are so interesting. These assessments that can actually tell you where your biases sit is incredible. But check in with yourself and with all things. And as always, it's tough when you're facing some tough truths about yourself because it can be quite daunting to realize that, oh, I've allowed this in my life for so long. So do a bit of an audit on yourself and your life. I was having an interesting conversation with someone recently about how their father is in the family, in the extended family. So he has a role, and just by the things he says and does with his children, and he loves all his children. He's a wonderful, loving man, adores his children. However, he has a different set of rules for his daughters
mm,
and for his sons. And this person that I was speaking to has become aware of this and has been working with it and actually having a conversation with him, with her father, which can be tough. But you know,
mm.
these tough conversations, when they're done in love and when you've got your own clarity about it and you can actually raise that conversation, it can be so enlightening for everybody. I mean, he wasn't aware and he was like, but that's not what I mean. And so they were able to sort of figure it out. And they might never ever completely close the gap, but they've both acknowledged the gap. They've both acknowledged that their bias is there. And now they
Wow.
can talk about
Wow,
it.
this is so mega powerful. So in that case, what I heard from you, tip number one, put yourself first. Tip number two, speak your truth. And tip number three, face truth about yourself. Is it right?
Mm. Absolutely. Yeah,
Beautiful. Okay. Well, beautiful tips, controversial tips, but that's exactly what we sometimes want, right? We want a bit of controversy, we want a little bit of a challenge, and we want to be different. Because guess what? If you always have done what you always did, you will get the same results. So here are the tips from
exactly.
awesome and fabulous Diana. Diana, how could you help other people and where can they find more about you and how they get in touch with you? Could you please share with us before we finish off?
Absolutely. So I absolutely love helping people to design their life in a way that they love living it.
Mhm.
That's my passion. So it's about every area of life, looking at what's working, what isn't working, and finding balance, finding a way to come to terms with your own inner truth, finding a way to speak that truth, finding a way to put yourself first. So that's what I love doing. I love empowering people to do that in groups and one on one. So, and the easiest way to find me is at dianagrant.com, or else I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, I'm all over social media. Um, yeah, a very wonderful place to see a showcase of what I have to say is LinkedIn because I'm on there all the time saying my say. And yeah, so get in touch. I love just hearing from people. And, so often um, you'll know we think our struggle is just ours. Nobody else
Mhm.
can possibly understand. Or you see somebody having a struggle and you think, I wonder if they know what I'm thinking, but I'm not going to speak about it because, taboo.
Mhm.
But when you start putting yourself first and you start really loving yourself, that becomes less scary. And talking to somebody who's been there and who knows and you can say, yeah, I know how that feels. That's a horrible struggle to have. And here are some things that can really, really support that process. So yeah, that's my passion. So get in touch.
Very powerful. And we can tell you're so passionate, Diana, because it shines through you and you know so much. Valeria says that in the chat that these that is so true. All three are very important. And surely Diana has a lot more, but you've got to go to her website and find out more about her. And she has definitely more to because I know her personally. She's so wise. Well, thank you so much, my darling Diana,
Thank you.
my awesome friend and the one who actually wrote some beautiful books. What I will do, I will share the links to your social media and also I will share the link to your book because I think your book, Love Me Beautiful, is truly transformational. And especially the cards which you have, I think
Hmm.
can help so many people. So, do you
Yeah.
want to tell a few words about those cards?
Oh, I'd love to. Yes, the cards are so simple. I'm actually just going to bend down here and grab them. Um, it's such a simple concept. It's just a little deck of affirmation cards. And I just hear from so many people how these cards help them every day. Um, they each have a very simple affirmation on them, and you can use them however you like. There you go. Look at us. And they just cover a whole plethora of topics. Here's a good one. I am perfect exactly as I am.
Ah, how good is that? I love that.
Right, right. And yeah, so they're great. They're great to just have next to you at all times. You can pull a card, you can pull three cards, you can read all of them, depending on the day you want to have. But they're great affirmations, really simple, and just things to remind you of the wonder of who you actually are and why you want to put yourself first in this life.
Ooh, I love that. And to be honest, between you and me and everybody else who's watching us right now, I can say, ooh, Valeria says, wow, I just received them in my post yesterday. Woo, how nice is that? How nice is that? What I was going to say that I believe that these cards also can help those who are watching us today to break through the bias because that inspirational message that will be just having for themselves will actually help them to go through. And for example, this one is really, really big one. I can definitely relate to that. I trust myself, right? So
Mhm.
imagine just picking up one of the cards and literally trusting yourself, trusting your intuition, trusting your opinions, and not listening to the bias, not listening to the other people's judgment, not listening to what they got to say about your life and how you should live your life. will actually help you and inspire you. So, anyways, I will share the link to
Yeah.
them as well because I enjoy my own cards. So it's very nice to have them. A little Diana, like I have Diana on my desk, right? So it's very nice.
Best idea.
So
Best
yeah, so I
idea.
think many other people can also have Diana on their desk. So, anyways, let's just say thank you to all people who watched us today. Thank you very much for watching us. If you could share this video with your audience at least once, that will definitely help
Yeah.
us to transform the world because that's exactly what we're doing with Diana. We are on the mission to transform the world with the power of the self-love. And we'll see you next Wednesday, the first Wednesday of the month, which is in April. We will see you again. We'll go live with Diana again with a topic on self-love. So tune in, check it out, and
Brilliant.
watch the replay. Thank you, Diana, for coming today.
Thank you, Olga. It's been wonderful as always. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care, everyone. Mwah.